No one had ever seen a human soldier in combat without a cigarette hanging from his lips. The war had been dragging on for decades. The Sol Republic, a coalition of planets that included Earth, had been in conflict with the alien Exura for so long that no one could remember the beginning. The Exura were ruthless, efficient, and utterly uninterested in human suffering. They had raised colonies, slaughtered civilians, and taken entire systems for resources, all while their cold, calculating leadership viewed humanity as little more than an obstacle. But for the longest time, humanity endured. Humans didn't want war. They wanted peace. They wanted to sit down at a table with the Exura, offer a handshake, and end the bloodshed. The patience of the Sol Republic's leaders was vast, their resolve clear. There would be no more violence, if they could help it. For nearly a century they tried. Yet, there comes a point when patience becomes a weakness, a breaking point. No one knew that better than the men of the 3rd Earth Infantry Division. Lieutenant Marcus Reed was a soldier like any other. Drafted at just 20, he was swept up in the draft like millions of others, sent off to basic training, and later deployed to the front lines. He had lived through the sieges, the ambushes, the firefights, and the long, lonely nights staring into the stars. He had seen men die, seen entire fleets vanish in moments, all for the sake of a war no one could explain anymore. Reed had spent too long fighting the Exura to still care about who was right. He just wanted it to end. If that meant smashing through the Exura front lines with every ounce of firepower humanity could bring to bear, then so be it. On the 130th day of Operation Broken Arrow, it happened. The Exura had crossed into the Sol Republic's borders again, their armies smashing through the last line of defense and entering the neutral zone. They took no prisoners, spared no civilians. The destruction was swift. The Sol Republic, still reeling from decades of war, issued an ultimatum to the Exura: withdraw or face the consequences. For the first time in years, the Exura responded, not with peace talks or diplomacy, but with a broadcast to all of human space. Their leader, High Commander Karuk, appeared on every screen, his six-limbed form towering and terrifying. "You cannot defeat us," Karuk's voice boomed, the words translated into every known human language. "Your species is weak. Your planet is insignificant. Your soldiers are nothing. You will surrender, or your extinction will be inevitable." The transmission ended, leaving a chill in the air across every human-held planet. It was the first time in decades that humanity had been genuinely threatened, not with fire and brimstone, but with a brutal finality. Reed knew the Sol Republic had been patient for too long. They had tried to negotiate, to reason, to give the Exura a way out. But Karuk's words were a slap in the face. The Republic had endured its humiliation for too long. The time for patience was over. Reed was among the first to hear the order. It came through the comms late at night after an assault on an Exura mining base. His platoon was resting, recovering from the chaos of the attack, when the order came in. "All units, this is High Command," a voice crackled through the speakers. "Operation Broken Arrow has been initiated. The time for patience is over. We are going to end this war. All assets are to be deployed immediately. All commands execute the plan." Reed's heart raced. The plan was simple: annihilate the Exura, every last one. It was not a strategy of defense. It was an all-out assault. There would be no more diplomatic efforts, no more delays. Humanity was taking the fight to them. Reed stood up, the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders. He could hear the low murmur of the men around him, but they didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. The world had already decided for them. The anger, the frustration, the endless years of watching human lives wasted, it was all coming to a head. The Exura had pushed humanity too far, and now they were about to pay the price. Lieutenant Reed moved through the camp, gathering his squad together. The men were exhausted, their faces worn with the toll of the endless conflict, but there was something different in the air now, something that hadn't been there before. It wasn't just rage. It was purpose. "We've waited too long for this moment," Reed said, his voice steady but filled with conviction. "We are humanity's last hope. This war ends now." The men nodded. It didn't matter that they had spent years in the trenches. It didn't matter that they had seen friends fall and ships explode into fireballs. They had a job to do, and they were going to do it with everything they had. "Let's make sure Karuk remembers who we are," one of the soldiers muttered. The rest of the platoon grinned, as if they had all heard the same thought. Humanity had never backed down. They had been pushed, prodded, and attacked for too long, but they had finally reached the point of no return. Hours later, the division was assembled. The skies were filled with thousands of ships, human vessels, descending toward the Exura fleet. Earth's forces had gathered all their strength for this strike, all their might. Reed watched as the massive warships lined up, their weapons ready to fire. The first waves of soldiers were already heading into the Exura strongholds. But it wasn't just about the ships or the ground troops. It was about something else, something human. There was a fire in their eyes, something that the Exura could never understand. Reed knew they had underestimated humanity's resolve. They thought the long war had worn them down. They thought humanity's patience had weakened them. But patience, Reed realized, was not a sign of weakness. It was the calm before the storm.